When the orca locks onto a target, the ocean nearly instantly falls under its control. Each close approach is a blend of strength, endurance, and calculated coordination. In that environment, success belongs to the one that removes the opponent's initiative first. That is why the orca consistently stands out as a dominant force across the open sea. At up to 30 feet long, the orca is the largest and most commanding member of the dolphin family. It operates in tightly bonded pods, using collective intelligence to dominate vast marine environments. The combination of acoustic communication and hunting strategy places the orca among the ocean's top predators. From the Arctic to the Pacific, this species stands as a powerful example of unity in the sea. In the ice-covered waters of Antarctica, seals often treat floating ice as their final refuge in a risky ocean. By resting just a few feet above the surface, they can temporarily avoid many of the dangers below. But for orcas, that barrier is not the end point, only a layer of defense waiting to be broken. To reach this prey, orcas display one of the ocean's most remarkable group strategies: wave washing. When a seal is spotted resting on an ice floe, a pod of 3 to 5 orcas quickly lines up side by side and accelerates together. Powerful tail strokes and synchronized swimming generate an artificial wave strong enough to wash the seal into the water. If the ice remains stable, they immediately change their approach, using their body mass and force from below to shake the structure, turning a secure resting place into an unstable sheet of ice. But the deeper significance of the hunt lies beyond the outcome itself. Mother orcas often control the pace of the attempt, so younger members can observe, learning how to coordinate formation, time their movements, and create the wave with precision. In the harsh polar environment, this is not only a hunt, but also a transfer of survival knowledge that has helped this predator maintain its leading position for generations. Along the Patagonia coastline, where the boundary between ocean and land shifts with every wave, even a brief moment of distraction can change the entire outcome. On the rocky shores, sea lions, close relatives of seals, can weigh up to 800 pounds and carry a rich layer of energy-dense fat. For certain specialized orcapods, they have long been an important food source during the breeding season. Beneath the deep blue surface, dark shapes nearly blend into the calm sea. They hold their positions patiently, observing every small movement near the shoreline. If a young sea lion swims too far out, or an individual drifts slightly away from the group, the quiet balance is instantly broken. Using the momentum of rising waves, the orcas deploy one of nature's boldest hunting strategies: intentional beaching. The massive body slides close across the sand to reach the target, then quickly pivots back towards deeper water before the hunter itself faces danger. It is a calculation that demands near-perfect precision, where even the smallest misjudgment can change the entire outcome. If the target escapes into deeper offshore waters, a different phase begins. The orcas move in with a pincer-like formation, cutting off any path back toward land. Every movement unfolds in coordinated rhythm, guided by the experienced female leader, the matriarch, who plays a central role in the group's strategy. Gray whales are among the ocean's most enduring travelers. Each year, they leave the cold northern feeding grounds and move toward warmer lagoons off Mexico, where a new generation begins its life. Beside her calf, a mother whale weighing around 90,000 pounds becomes a living wall, placing her body between the young one and any unusual movement beneath the deep water. Along the 12,000-mile migration route, their greatest challengers are the patient shadows of the sea, orcas. They do not rely on sudden aggression, but on gradual pressure, using deeper waters to weaken the bond between mother and calf. The encounter can last for hours, as orcas apply an isolation strategy, steadily wearing down their target through carefully timed approaches. Here, the confrontation is not only a contrast between size and numbers, it is a test of endurance, of a mother's instinct to protect her calf, and of the relentless conditions the ocean places on every migration. The presence of orcas, particularly around young whales, can influence the survival of new calves and shape the rhythm of population recovery from season to season. The great white shark has long been regarded as one of the ocean's most powerful icons. With a body reaching up to 20 feet, an extremely sensitive electroreception system, and explosive bursts of speed over short distances, it is a hunter that commands caution throughout the surrounding waters. But when orcas appear, even that symbol of dominance can no longer hold the top position. In the waters of New Zealand, orcas do not rely on simple aggression, but on a carefully calculated strategy. They coordinate their formation, using pressure and synchronized movement to push the shark into a disadvantageous position. With a mass of around 15,000 pounds, the leading orca delivers a decisive strike that forces the shark off its usual swimming axis. In that moment, the balance shifts. When turned upside down, a shark can enter a state known as tonic immobility, a temporary condition of stillness caused by muscle response, leaving it almost completely unable to move. It is here that the orca's dominance becomes most evident, not only through strength, but through precise knowledge of the shark's biological vulnerability. The ultimate objective is not a display of power, but the concentrated energy stored within the shark's massive liver. Across the vast ocean, the most formidable predator is not always the strongest, but the one that turns intelligence into a decisive advantage. Deep beneath the open ocean, immense size does not always guarantee complete safety. The blue whale, the largest creature ever known, reaching lengths of more than 100 feet, has long been considered nearly untouchable. Yet when a solitary individual enters the wrong moment and place, it can become the focus of one of the most complex hunting efforts in the natural world. Across the vast sea, a large pod of orcas begins to deploy a strategy often described as a form of respiratory blockade. Working in rotation, they surge across the whale's back, using their several thousand-pound bodies to apply constant pressure and limit its chances to surface for air. It becomes a prolonged contest of endurance. Orcas rely on superior agility and coordination to gradually wear down a giant that can weigh up to 300,000 pounds. In response, each powerful sweep of the blue whale's massive tail is an effort to break through the encircling formation. But the collective intelligence of these ocean hunters keeps the formation tight and controlled. As fatigue slowly builds, the enormous size that once seemed like an advantage begins to turn into a heavy burden for its owner. Beneath the mirror-like surface of the Eastern Pacific, a demanding struggle for survival quietly unfolds between close relatives of the same lineage. Dolphins, remarkable swimmers capable of reaching speeds above 20 miles per hour, now face a challenge far beyond their physical limits. The orca. When the pursuit begins, the ocean surface seems to split apart as dolphins leap in urgent bursts. Yet below the water, the orca pod has already formed a dense network of echolocation, locking onto every direction of movement. They advance in a pincer-like formation, steadily guiding the target toward less favorable waters. In the instant the most vulnerable individual becomes separated, an orca delivers a powerful underwater strike. Using its great mass and momentum, it surges upward from below, generating a force of thousands of pounds that leaves the target unable to continue. The encounter concludes with remarkable precision. In the world of orcas, a deep understanding of an opponent's behavior becomes the most effective advantage, turning even the ocean's swiftest swimmers into part of the endless cycle of survival. The lion surges forward with commitment, an attack rhythm that seems already decided. But some targets do not flee. They hold their ground, apply pressure, and break the advantage. Then a rival steps in, and the lion's strength shows in staying clear-headed enough to pull back. As the dust settles, only a few scars remain with time, marks of one misread moment. So who is it that makes a lion yield, even inside its own territory? Across the open savanna, giraffes rise like proud living landmarks. Standing over 18 feet tall and weighing about 2,600 pounds, their unhurried pace often misleads the eye, causing a lion group to mistake them for an easy target. A coordinated pursuit begins. Tawny shapes close in, trying to pin this tower down and disrupt its balance. But this is exactly when survival instinct delivers the decisive counter. When forced to the edge, the giraffe is no longer the one that runs. It pivots in place, shifting its full body weight into hind legs longer than 7 feet. A powerful backward kick releases an impact measured in thousands of pounds, making the pursuers hesitate as the formation breaks apart. The encounter ends with a careful retreat by those who had relied on raw strength. On the savanna, survival is not only about pressing forward, it is also about having a defense strong enough to make any reckless move come at a steep cost. Across the savanna, few targets force lions to calculate as carefully as the rhinoceros. A towering mass of muscle wrapped in armor-thick skin, armed with a horn stretching more than 3 feet, an ever-ready lance of defense. When drought tightens its grip on resources, only the most daring prides consider the risk. Rather than retreat, the rhinoceros often turns to face the threat head-on. Though its eyesight is limited, a keen sense of smell allows it to identify danger before launching forward at nearly 30 miles per hour. Weighing several times more than a lion, the force generated by its dense keratin horn is powerful enough to drive back even the most determined predator. At times, lions notice what appears to be a more favorable opportunity. A solitary individual slowed in thick mud. 3 lions coordinate carefully, narrowing the circle around the vulnerable position. Yet in a critical instant, survival instinct surges. The rhinoceros pushes free from the mire and delivers a decisive charge that breaks the encirclement. Once again, the living fortress reasserts its authority, compelling the predators to maintain a respectful distance. In the wild, encounters between African wild dogs and lions are not contests of sheer muscle, but clashes between collective discipline and solitary power. Though each individual weighs only about 70 pounds, far smaller than the ruler of the savannah, the wild dog commands an astonishing hunting success rate of nearly 80% through masterful pack coordination. Rather than seeking a swift resolution, they rely on tempo, maintaining speeds of up to 37 miles per hour across long distances. The pack rotates positions, cuts angles, and steadily wears down the resolve of a lioness. Whenever the lion attempts a countercharge, the agile formation disperses instantly, holding a safe distance before regrouping to renew pressure. Faced with an overwhelming numerical maze, the lion understands that prolonged engagement leads only to wasted energy and unnecessary risk of injury. Withdrawal often becomes the most practical choice to preserve long-term dominance. A hippo is a living fortress, weighing around 4,000 pounds, and that massive body is only the outer shell of a life tightly bound to water. Its unusually sensitive skin means it rarely leaves familiar pools. Each step onto land is not a stroll, but a calculated move to endure the heat and the wide, exposed savanna. In the scorching midday, a lion group follows from a distance, patiently reading every breath of the big target. But the moment a boundary is tested, the atmosphere changes. The hippo turns faster than its size suggests, becoming a moving wall of pressure. Enough to force the hunting formation to split apart to avoid being pushed into a dangerous distance. Even if a bold lion tries to climb onto its back, it gains no clear advantage, because the route back to water is always the line the hippo protects most. When the river becomes the boundary, the balance shifts to the one guarding the entrance. Beneath the murky surface, the hippo actively controls the space. It surfaces without warning at the cutoff point, using the pressure of an extremely powerful jaw, around 1,800 pounds per square inch, to make any pursuer stop and fall back. At this narrow line, power does not belong to the one with sharp claws, but to the resolve of a giant defending its domain. Against the hippo's raw fury, retreat becomes the only wise choice for survival. Spotted hyenas are far more than simple scavengers. They are disciplined tacticians, operating groups of up to 80 individuals like a coordinated tactical unit. With a bite force reaching nearly 1,100 pounds per square inch, strong enough to break down even the toughest structures into usable energy. They stand as a long-standing rival, directly challenging the authority of lions. When they detect a rival feeding, hyenas release their eerie laughter to rally the clan. They surround with remarkable patience, forming a calculated ring of pressure. The objective is not physical collision, but psychological strain. Under constant harassment and repeated advances, lions face mounting stress, often choosing to yield space in order to conserve precious energy. The balance shifts when a fully grown male lion arrives, compelling the hyenas to withdraw with strategy rather than panic. Yet they never abandon the field entirely, instead watching for weaknesses within the ruling order to launch carefully timed counter-moves. Opportunities often focus on younger males lacking experience. Under intense group pressure, the rising contender faces a choice: step back to preserve survival, or remain and accept significant risk in a deeply unfavorable encounter. The Cape buffalo is never an easy target. Often described as a living tank, it carries a relentless will to stand its ground. When pressed, it does not flee in panic. Instead, it lowers its center of gravity, using a rock-solid head and sweeping C-shaped horns as direct defensive tools. Weighing close to 2,000 pounds, it channels sheer mass into forward momentum, driving challengers backward and turning weight into force. The peak of the drama lies in its unity. At a distress signal, the herd can shift instantly from defense to coordinated advance, forming a wall of horns that surges towards the threat. In those breathless moments, the lion's authority fades before collective strength, often compelling even the most confident predators to withdraw and reassess. Lions are often called the king of the savannah, holding the highest hunting rank through strength, strategy, and territorial control. But that very position also makes a lion the clearest target. On the face of a male weighing nearly 420 pounds, many marks do not come from prey, but from the record of having to defend status against other lions. Male lions rarely travel alone. Most takeovers are driven by a coalition of 2 to 4 males crossing a boundary that can span hundreds of square miles. Roars carrying as far as 5 miles are not just a signal of presence. They are a declaration of power, a kind of negotiation through dominance, where the weaker side can choose to back away to avoid costly strain. But if neither side yields, tension rises immediately. The two sides close in, push their weight forward, then break apart to reset, repeating the pattern in cycles, more like a test of endurance and will than a contest decided in seconds. If the resident male loses control of the territory's core, he is forced to withdraw. The winners take over, and the pride's order shifts at once. Old bonds unravel, and breeding opportunities are rewritten for a new lineage. The water's surface appears still, yet danger is never truly at rest. The crocodile presses low along the muddy bank like a living trap from an ancient age. It does not display its strength, choosing instead to wait for the exact moment to close the distance. Each encounter captured on camera shows that nature often favors the more patient side. Within waters that seem ordinary, what makes the crocodile the greatest source of caution? Crocodiles are ancient masters of ambush. With eyes set high on the top of the head, they can remain perfectly concealed beneath murky water while waiting for the precise moment to act. Rather than chasing prey over long distances, the crocodile concentrates its power into a sudden burst of speed and a powerful rolling maneuver that secures control. With an extremely low metabolic rate, it can wait patiently for months, trading long stretches of stillness for a single decisive second of action. Wildebeest are among the most enduring marathon travelers of the Serengeti Plains. Weighing up to 600 pounds, they carry a powerful migratory instinct in the search for life. Each year, a living current of nearly 1.5 million animals begins a demanding journey across vast distances. Before the fast-moving Mara River, young calves may only see a source of water, while experienced adults pause, memories of past dangers still lingering beneath the cloudy surface. Beneath the water, Nile crocodiles reaching up to 16 feet in length may have been waiting for weeks, sometimes even months. They do not rely on long pursuits, but on silence, positioning, and the moment when the herd disrupts its own formation as it enters the river. Once the crossing begins, the strong current quickly breaks the cohesion of the herd. A single misstep, or one animal drifting too far from the group, can place it in serious danger. Powerful jaws with a bite force of about 3,700 pounds per square inch may surge forward in an instant, pulling a target away from the river's edge amid splashing water and the thunder of hooves. Each migration season, thousands of animals are lost along these rivers. Yet in nature, that loss does not go to waste. What is left behind contributes more than 1,000 tons of nutrients that sustain the river ecosystem for months afterward. At this fragile boundary of survival, one quiet ending often becomes the beginning of new life. Amid the murky wetlands of Africa, The hippopotamus appears like a living fortress that is extremely difficult to challenge. An adult can weigh up to 3,000 pounds, carrying dense muscle capable of driving its full mass through the water in an instant. With jaws that can open to nearly 150 degrees and tusks approaching 20 inches in length, it does more than guard territory. It firmly enforces its presence. At the water's edge, a Nile crocodile watches quietly, sensing even the smallest vibration in search of a gap within the hippo's solid formation. Opportunity usually appears only when a young calf falls briefly out of rhythm, drifting beyond its mother's protective circle for a few seconds. Even when such a moment emerges, it remains an extremely dangerous gamble. When the fortress responds, the balance can shift immediately. An adult hippo may drive forward with immense mass, forcing the crocodile toward shallower and less favorable water before delivering a powerful bite of around 1,800 pounds per square inch. Amid the collective force of the group, the ambush hunter often finds its options quickly limited against the hippo's thick skin, which can reach nearly 2 inches. In the wetlands, the lesson is unmistakable. At times, calculated strategy must yield to sheer strength and the order of the herd. Along river sandbanks, wild boars have never been easy targets. An adult can weigh up to 200 pounds, carrying tusks about 4 inches long and reacting quickly to any unusual signal in its surroundings. At the water's edge, even a brief moment of distraction can create an opportunity for a crocodile to move closer. From the calm surface, it can surge onto the bank at speeds of around 11 miles per hour, attempting to close the distance within only a few seconds. For the wild boar, however, vigilance remains the first line of defense. In other situations, especially when young are nearby, the balance can shift the other way. A mother boar lowers her center of gravity, drives forward with determination, and creates enough pressure to force the ambush hunter to hesitate. At the boundary between land and water, strength doesn't belong only to the one that strikes first, but also to the one that holds position and protects what matters most. On the African grasslands, lions hold the authority of land-based rulers. With a weight of around 400 pounds, they can burst into motion in an instant, but their greatest advantage still lies in their ability to coordinate as a pride. Yet along the edge of muddy rivers, that power begins to meet its limits. The Nile crocodile is almost made to control that boundary. When lions attempt to cross the river, even the slightest movement beneath the surface is enough for the crocodile to judge the right moment to approach. In that instant, what keeps a lion safe is no longer strength, but alertness and reflexes quick enough to preserve distance. And encounters along the riverbank rarely end there. They leave behind a lasting caution on both sides. The balance shifts only when the crocodile exposes itself on shallow ground. At that point, the lions quickly use their advantage in numbers, closing in from several directions and forcing their rival to keep turning. Their agility helps them maintain pressure, while the crocodile tries to hold a defensive position with its thick armor and deeply intimidating jaws. But on dry ground, the advantage no longer belongs to the ambush hunter of the water. In the end, the crocodile usually has to find its way back to the river, where the balance tilts in its favor again. From the opposite side, even when lions are holding food near the water's edge, they still cannot afford to relax completely. Just one sudden movement from the dark mud is enough to make the entire pride step back at once. At the meeting point between land and current, power does not belong absolutely to the stronger species, but to the one that commands its own space. In the realm of predators, boldness always carries a costly risk. The leopard, a cunning hunter weighing about 150 pounds, sometimes dares to challenge the master of ambush by claiming prey near those formidable jaws. But the Nile crocodile never forgets. It waits in silence, patient and watchful, for the single moment when balance can shift again. When the leopard is forced to cross the territory of its rival, a sudden snap may erupt from the water. In that split second, the cat struggles intensely to break free from the grip of dozens of sharp teeth. Its natural agility may allow it to pull away at the last moment, a stark reminder that beneath the water's surface, the crocodile holds the advantage. A similar risk surrounds the cheetah. Even as the fastest land animal on Earth, capable of reaching about 70 miles per hour, that speed offers little protection against a sudden surge from the river. In barely 0.2 seconds, faster than a single breath, the crocodile can turn an ordinary drink of water into a life-threatening moment. For the animals watching nearby, it becomes a powerful lesson. Vigilance is not merely a habit, but the only safeguard that allows the rulers of the land to see another sunrise. Leaving the African savanna behind and moving into the watery maze of the Pantanal, a dramatic shift in dominance unfolds beneath the flooded forest canopy. This is the domain of the caiman, ambush hunters about 8 feet long and weighing roughly 120 pounds. Yet from the dense vegetation, A pair of golden eyes studies the scene with remarkable precision. It belongs to the Jaguar, the only big cat that has turned these wetlands into its own arena. Unlike many distant relatives, the South American jaguar possesses an extraordinary bite force of about 1,500 pounds per square inch, a biological tool capable of ending a confrontation with a single precise hold on a vulnerable point. When the jaguar releases its sudden burst of power, it is not merely hunting, it is executing a carefully calculated strategy. In a flash, the spotted figure dives toward the water, neutralizing its rival's ability to respond before it can retreat into deeper channels. Even as the struggle unfolds in the water, the jaguar's powerful shoulders allow it to maintain control, pulling the wetland hunter up toward the steep riverbank. The encounter ends in the quiet of the vast forest, where the jaguar reaffirms its commanding presence, leaving a lasting caution for those that once felt secure in the depths of the mud. Each pursuit is a test of endurance, instinct, and a pack formation that operates with near-perfect coordination. In that sun-scorched land, even a single moment of delay can tilt the balance entirely to the other side. What has turned this small pack hunter into a constant source of tension across the savannah? Across the sun-scorched grasslands, the impala appears as a masterpiece of evolution. With the ability to leap nearly 10 feet high and cover up to 30 feet in a single bound, it seems to challenge the limits of physics itself. Yet that graceful elegance now faces a relentless biological strategy from the African wild dog. Rather than relying on sudden bursts of speed, the pack sets a practical endurance pursuit, maintaining speeds close to 37 miles per hour across distances longer than 3 miles. They move directly through the center of the herd, using the resulting confusion to identify and separate individuals that fall outside the herd's protective rhythm. This pursuit does not depend on raw muscle alone, but on calculated rotation within the pack. When the leading runner begins to tire, another member quickly advances to take the front position, maintaining steady pressure on the isolated target. In that moment, the wild dog's greatest advantage becomes clear: uninterrupted endurance. Unlike the cooling system of the antelope, the wild dog's respiratory system is built for sustained pursuit. By the time the impala rushes toward a nearby water source in a final effort to escape, its body is already reaching its limit from heat stress before the pressure from its pursuers truly closes in. With success rates that can reach nearly 80%, the pursuit demonstrates how endurance and discipline often prevail over brief bursts of individual speed. As the water's surface grows calm again, a new cycle of energy begins, continuing the endless rhythm of nature. Time is the most formidable opponent on the savanna, and the wild dog pack knows how to turn it into a weapon. This time the target is an adult oryx, a true desert warrior. It carries defensive horns stretching more than 2 feet long and a remarkably steady resolve. With an upright stance, a head lowered at the right moment, and calm composure under pressure, the oryx is among the most challenging animals to approach across the African grasslands. When the pack notices the lone grazer feeding apart from others, the dogs do not rush in. Instead, they widen their formation, shifting directions repeatedly to divide the animal's attention. Pressed into a narrow space, the oryx responds with a powerful thrust capable of forcing most predators to step back. During the first moments, the advantage belongs to the towering antelope, its upright horns forming a clear boundary that keeps the pack at a careful distance. But as the pressure continues from several directions, the rhythm of the oryx's defense begins to slow. The dogs tighten their circle from behind, moving forward and withdrawing in smooth rotation, gradually wearing down the resolve of their opponent. The outcome arrives almost as a natural conclusion. The roughly 500-pound reward is shared with remarkable order, just as the ecological cycle has long unfolded. Across the harsh savanna, the African buffalo stands like a living fortress weighing more than 1,800 pounds. With horns capable of delivering immense force and skin nearly 1 inch thick, this giant represents a boundary few hunters dare to approach. Yet, when the dry season drains the land of resources, the wild dog pack is forced into one of the most daring gambles in its struggle for survival. With roughly 25 members, the pack does not confront the massive animal head-on. Instead, they move like a flowing system, quietly tracking the herd from a safe distance, while waiting for a single moment of inattention. When a gap appears, the dogs accelerate at once, approaching from several directions to draw the target into a confusing formation. A younger buffalo weighing about 150 pounds, once separated from the protection of the herd, can quickly find itself surrounded by relentless pressure. This precise coordination allows these smaller hunters to overcome even a powerful individual of the grasslands, demonstrating how collective strategy can break through the barrier of sheer size. When calm finally returns, the savanna records another lesson in nature's strict balance. A world where persistence and unwavering discipline remain the ultimate keys to survival. On the savanna, a solitary figure appears, redefining the meaning of dominance. Weighing around 420 pounds, the lion moves like a mass of living muscle, its presence alone enough to slow the rhythm of movement across the grassland. Yet its rivals are a tireless army. When the lion moves closer, the wild dogs do not scatter. They surround it. The formation resembles a classic guerrilla strategy. When the lion turns toward one direction, pressure rises from another. The wild dogs react in fractions of a second, creating a relentless rhythm that even the weight and power of the king struggle to match. After several sharp turns and low growls of frustration, the lion recognizes that this is a contest where survival matters more than pride. It chooses to withdraw. One lesson remains. Authority may cause weaker rivals to hesitate, but discipline and coordination are what allow a united group to overcome a stronger opponent. Spotted hyenas are rivals that African wild dogs rarely underestimate. Weighing around 140 pounds and carrying a formidable bite force of about 1,100 pounds per square inch, the hyena is known for its resilience and remarkable stamina in tense confrontations. Rather than relying on speed, it follows with patience, quietly trailing some of the savanna's most skilled hunters, while waiting for the moment to assert control. When a pack of wild dogs has just completed a pursuit through its characteristic endurance, the distant calls of hyenas often echo across the plains, signaling a strategic intrusion. Alone, a hyena can easily find itself surrounded by the agility of the pack. However, as their numbers grow, their greater body mass begins to shift the balance. Hyenas use their muscular weight to apply pressure, attempting to push rivals away from the results of their effort. Instead of descending into disorder, the wild dogs activate a multi-point coordination system, maintaining safe spacing through brief contact calls. One side relies on sheer mechanical strength, while the other depends on speed and unbroken cohesion. As a result, many confrontations do not end with a sudden, decisive outcome, but with fatigue from the side that loses its rhythm. On these plains, strength may prevail for a moment, but endurance often determines who retains the final reward. Beneath the shade of acacia trees, the leopard appears like an uncrowned ruler. With a streamlined body of about 130 pounds, it relies entirely on solitary instinct rather than the strength of a pack. Yet on the savanna, individual authority is always tested by numbers. Warriors that never act alone, the African wild dogs. When a prey animal has just been brought down, the result often becomes a signal that attracts opportunists. A single wild dog can sometimes be driven away with ease, but that is often only the beginning. Within minutes, short contact calls echo across the grassland, and the pack quickly forms pressure from several directions. Running at speeds close to 37 miles per hour, they force the leopard to abandon its meal in favor of survival. From a high branch, it can only watch as the meal slips beyond its control. The tension grows even greater when a leopard wanders too close to a denning area. To protect the next generation, the wild dogs respond immediately with coordinated surges of pressure. In such moments, climbing ability becomes the final escape, allowing the leopard to move beyond the reach of the pack. The savanna offers no permanent ownership, only opportunities that appear and disappear. Losing a meal can be the cost of a single moment of inattention. After all is said and done, the orca still stands as a predator that compels the rest of the ocean to adjust around it. It applies pressure through intelligence, strength, and near-flawless coordination. That is not just power, but control shaped by experience and strategy. If these intense moments of survival held your attention, please like the video. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel to continue following the hunts ahead.